All right, let's jump into another deep dive. Today we're heading straight into a true crime story
Ah, this was.
that is fascinating and
Yeah.
disturbing all at the same time.
hmm
It's the case of Annie Dukan,
Okay.
a chemist at the Hinton State Lab in Boston.
Interesting.
Now, picture this. Early 2000s, the war on drugs is in full swing,
Yeah.
and labs are just swamped with these drug samples
Right.
that all need to be analyzed like ASAP.
Huge backlog.
Huge backlog.
Yeah, just pressure cooker.
Exactly. Pressure cooker environment
Yeah.
with this constant push for speed
And efficiency.
and efficiency.
Yeah.
And in this pressure cooker, Annie Dukan, she's a rising star.
Okay.
She was known for her incredible work ethic and
Mhm.
output.
Wow.
She was even nicknamed
What was it?
Superwoman.
Superwoman. Wow.
But was this a case of someone, cracking under pressure,
Right.
or was it something far more calculated? Buckle up, because we're
Yeah.
about to find out.
What's interesting about her story is it's not just someone snapping, right?
Right.
There are these early hints of ambition
Okay.
and even a willingness to bend the truth
Oh, interesting.
that suggest a deeper pattern.
Give me an example.
So, for instance, she lied about attending Harvard
What?
to impress her classmates in college.
Wait, so like faking her way into Harvard in college?
Yeah.
That's more than just a little white lie.
Right. It makes you wonder.
Yeah, did she feel like an outsider?
Yeah,
Did she feel like she needed to prove herself?
exactly.
I mean, think about it. She immigrated to the U.S.
Right. She wasn't from here.
from Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
I mean, that feeling of being an outsider,
Yeah.
needing to fit in,
powerfully.
can be incredibly powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And that drive to fit in, to excel,
Totally.
it seemed to really take hold when she started working
Where was that?
at Mass Biologics,
All right.
a vaccine company in Boston.
Interesting.
She was determined to get a promotion. And she even went so far as to tell everyone she was getting her PhD from Harvard.
Again, that fabrication. It's like
Uh-huh.
she was creating this image, this
Yeah.
persona that wasn't totally true.
Right.
But, the irony is,
What's that?
even without those credentials,
Okay.
she was actually a talented chemist.
Interesting.
Her work at Mass Biologics, actually pretty good.
So it wasn't about lacking skills.
Right. It seems like it was more about
Yeah, what was it about?
the need for recognition,
Okay.
taking those shortcuts to get to success.
And when she didn't get that promotion at Mass Biologics,
Right.
she set her sights on the Hinton State Lab.
Okay, so that's where things...
And that's where things really start to take a darker turn.
Yeah, I mean, that environment at Hinton,
Yeah.
it was ripe for someone like Dukan.
Right. With that backlog.
Exactly, that overwhelming backlog.
The drug samples.
Just created an atmosphere where shortcuts
Right.
could easily become the norm.
It's almost like the system itself was setting her up to fail.
In a way, yeah.
In a way, they needed results.
And they needed them fast.
Fast.
Yeah,
And Dukan was determined to deliver
no matter what.
no matter the cost.
Exactly, and that's where she earned that Superwoman nickname, right?
Right.
But even superheroes, they have their weaknesses.
They do.
And for Dukan, those started to show when she clashed with her supervisor,
Oh, really?
Charles Salome.
Who was he?
He was her supervisor.
Okay.
And they clashed over seemingly minor things,
Like what?
like protocol issues,
Okay.
like calibrating the scale.
So let's unpack this calibrating the scale issue.
Yeah.
Why was this such a big deal?
Well, you need to calibrate the scale, right?
Okay.
To ensure accurate measurements. It's
Yeah.
a fundamental step in the scientific process.
Of course.
But Dukan, she saw it as an obstacle.
Really?
Yeah, a time-consuming obstacle.
To her productivity.
To her productivity, exactly.
So she prioritized speed over accuracy.
It seems that way.
I mean, that seems like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, especially in a field where
Especially in forensics.
the results have serious consequences.
Absolutely.
And then to make things worse,
Oh, what happened?
a Supreme Court ruling came down
Okay.
that required chemists to actually testify in court.
Wow.
This meant even more time away from the lab,
Right?
adding to that pressure that she was already facing.
Wow. Talk about a perfect storm.
Right.
You got this pressure to process samples so quickly.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court ruling that's adding to the workload.
Work.
And then you've got Dukan's own drive to be
Right.
the best,
No matter what.
no matter the cost.
And it's within this pressure cooker
Yeah.
that the seeds of real deception are sown.
Okay.
One night, Dukan stayed late
Okay.
to process samples from a major drug bust.
Oh, wow.
This was a turning point.
Set the scene for me.
All right, so picture this.
Yeah.
Dukan's exhausted, overwhelmed,
Mm-hmm.
and she has this mountain of samples to process.
Mm-hmm.
And as she started testing,
Okay.
she noticed they all look similar.
Really?
Yeah, she was convinced they were all heroin.
So she just,
And that's when she took a shortcut.
what did she do?
She decided to skip the testing and just mark them all as positive.
She basically guessed.
Essentially.
But wouldn't that be easy to detect?
Well, that's what's called dry labbing.
Okay.
It's where you fabricate results without actually performing the tests.
Oh, well.
And it can be surprisingly hard to detect.
Really?
Especially if someone is meticulous, like Dukan was at covering her tracks.
So she took a shortcut,
Yeah.
thinking she was going to get the same result anyway.
Right.
But this is like the first step, slippery slope. I mean,
That's
that one night
Yeah.
dry labbing.
Became a way for her to cope with those impossible demands of her job.
So it became a habit.
And as the pressure continued to mount,
Yeah.
so did the deception.
It's like she got a taste of that forbidden fruit. And it just became her way of dealing with the pressure.
Yeah.
But how long could she keep this up?
How long until someone started noticing?
That's the question.
That's what we'll uncover in the next part of our deep dive.
All right, can't wait.
Someone did start noticing.
Oh, no.
And that's when this whole house of cards began to crumble.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be right back. Welcome back. Last time we left off with Annie Dukan taking her first shortcut into this world of dry labbing.
Yeah. Dangerous territory.
Dangerous territory. And she thought she could control it,
Right. Manage the pressure.
manage the pressure,
Yeah.
but how long could that really last?
Well, like any crack in a foundation,
Yeah.
it only spreads with time.
Right.
And in a lab full of scientists,
Yeah.
it was only a matter of time before someone started noticing.
Right, someone had to notice these inconsistencies.
Absolutely.
And that's where Peter Piro comes in.
Yeah, he was another chemist at the lab.
Okay. Another chemist at Hinton. He was known for being meticulous,
A stickler for protocol.
a stickler for protocol.
Yes.
So I'm imagining someone who's like the complete opposite of Dukan.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
Methodical, careful, and probably a bit frustrated
Yeah.
by her cavalier attitude.
You're spot on.
Yeah.
Piro, he wasn't like some crusading whistleblower, right?
Yeah.
He wasn't looking to take down a colleague or anything like that. He was just doing his job,
Right.
trying to maintain the integrity of the lab's work.
Of course, yeah.
But Dukan's blatant disregard for the rules,
Yeah.
her reckless efficiency.
That speed.
Yeah,
It started raising some red flags.
definitely.
So what was it that really tipped them off?
I mean, was it a specific incident or just like a gradual buildup? It was a few things, actually.
Okay.
First, her output was just incredible.
Right, that speed.
Yeah, she was processing samples at an unheard of rate.
Like superhuman.
Yeah, and Piro knew
You knew better.
how long each test should take.
Yeah.
He was an experienced chemist.
Right.
Dukan's speed just didn't add up.
It's like running a marathon at a sprint.
Right, exactly.
Something's got to give.
Yeah, and then there was the consistency
The consistency of what?
of her results.
Right.
It was almost too perfect.
What do you mean?
Well, her findings always seemed to align with what law enforcement suspected,
Okay.
even in cases where the evidence was kind of iffy.
So it wasn't just speed.
No.
It was also this pattern of results that seemed almost predetermined.
Yeah, that's the thing about scientific testing.
Yeah.
There's always uncertainty, a margin of error,
Right.
but her results were consistently spot on,
Mm.
which raised questions.
Yeah, was she really following the process?
Exactly.
It's almost like she was working backward,
Yeah.
starting with the answer
Like she already knew what they wanted.
and manipulating the evidence to fit.
It's possible.
But how did she get away with it for so long?
Well, remember the context.
Okay.
This was the peak of the war on drugs. There was immense pressure on the lab.
To process those samples.
Exactly, yeah.
And Dukan, with that Superwoman persona,
And that output.
she was seen as this valuable asset.
Sure.
So it's like she was a victim of her own success, in a way.
In a way, yeah.
The system that was pushing for that speed and efficiency.
Right, they were enabling her deception without even realizing it.
Wow, that's crazy.
But Piro wasn't fooled.
Nah,
He kept watching her, documenting her actions meticulously.
like a detective.
In a way.
Yeah.
So what did he see?
He saw her skipping crucial steps,
Such as,
like calibrating the scale,
again, that skill.
even after he reminded her of the policy.
Wow. Was she trying to get caught?
I mean, how could she be so blatant It's hard to say. Maybe she became overconfident, believing
Right.
she could keep it up forever.
Right.
Or maybe the pressure just warped her judgment.
Yeah, I mean, that pressure to maintain that image.
It can do strange things to people.
It can.
But whatever the reason.
Yeah. Her actions definitely became more and more reckless.
And this whole time, Piero's gathering evidence.
Right, building his case.
But how did he prove she wasn't just sloppy?
Yeah, how do you prove intent?
How do you prove that she was intentionally falsifying results?
Well, the smoking gun came when Piero was assigned to retest
Okay.
a batch of samples that Dukan had already processed.
Oh, okay.
And what he found was shocking.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. What did he find?
She reported drugs
Okay.
in samples where Piero found none.
What?
And in other cases, the amounts she reported were way off.
Wow.
The discrepancies were huge.
So she was definitely manipulating the data.
It was clear.
Wow, so Piero has his proof.
He does.
But how does he expose this?
Right.
I mean, remember, she's the star chemist.
Praised by their superiors.
This is going to be easy.
It's the classic whistleblower's dilemma, right?
Speak up and risk everything.
Your career, your reputation,
Yeah.
maybe even your safety,
But stay silent
and become complicit.
and become complicit in this massive injustice.
And the stakes are high.
Incredibly high.
This isn't just about a few inaccurate reports.
Right, we're talking about potentially thousands of cases
thousands of cases.
that relied on her test results.
People's lives, their freedom, hanging in the balance.
Based on falsified evidence? I mean, that's just a chilling thought.
It really is.
How many innocent people?
That's the dark undercurrent of this whole story.
It really is.
It's what makes Piero's decision to come forward so courageous.
Absolutely.
He knew the potential consequences,
Yeah.
the backlash he might face.
But he couldn't stay silent.
He couldn't.
And that's where we'll leave it for now.
Okay.
But the story is far from over.
It gets even more intense, believe me.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Join us next time as we explore the fallout from Piero's discovery
It's a wild ride.
and the long process of uncovering the full extent of her deception.
Buckle up.
Okay, so we're back and the tension is high, right?
Oh, yeah.
Peter Piero has uncovered Annie Dukan's deception.
He has the proof.
But now what?
Yeah, now he has to figure out what to do with it.
Right, because he knows
A tough spot.
she's the star chemist, praised for all that speed and efficiency.
Mm,
He's going up against the system.
absolutely. It's a classic David and Goliath situation.
Oh,
And remember, this was the war on drugs.
yeah.
That pressure to process cases fast.
It was intense.
There is huge.
So he knew that challenging her,
Yeah.
the lab's golden girl,
It could backfire.
it could have serious consequences.
Oh, yeah.
He was risking his career, his reputation, everything.
For the sake of truth and justice.
Exactly.
Which is pretty remarkable.
So what did he do?
Did he go straight to the top?
I mean, did he try to find allies within the lab?
He took a more cautious approach.
Okay, tell me more.
He first talked to a trusted colleague,
Okay.
another chemist,
Okay.
who had also noticed some issues with Dukan's work.
Interesting.
So together,
Yeah.
they started gathering even more evidence, trying to build an irrefutable case.
It's like a scientific investigation.
Exactly.
It's like something out of a spy movie.
Right.
These two scientists working in secret,
Yeah.
trying to piece together this puzzle that could bring down this whole system.
I mean, the system was built on shaky ground.
Wow.
It really was.
So what did they find?
Well, they uncovered a pattern of deception
Okay.
that was much bigger
Bigger than they even imagined.
than anyone imagined.
Wow.
It wasn't just a couple of instances of
Right.
dry labbing.
She had been systematically falsifying results
Yeah.
for years,
It seemed that way.
potentially affecting
But potentially thousands of cases.
thousands.
It's a lot.
So many lives.
Right. So many potential miscarriages of justice.
It's all stemming from the actions of one person.
It's crazy, right?
It's crazy.
What to think about.
It makes you realize how fragile the justice system really is.
It really does.
And the weight of that discovery
I can't even imagine.
has been immense.
Huge.
I mean, they knew.
Exposing her
Yeah.
would send shockwaves through the whole system.
It wouldn't just be about her anymore.
No.
It would be about the credibility of the lab,
Yeah.
the validity of all these convictions,
Uh-huh.
public trust in forensic science.
It was huge.
But despite those risks,
They knew they couldn't stay silent.
they couldn't.
They had to do something.
So what was their next move?
They decided to go through official channels.
Okay, so who did they talk to?
They first went to their supervisor, Julie Neff.
Okay, so Julie Neff,
Yeah.
I mean, she seemed like a decent person, right?
She did.
Someone who cared about her employees.
Yeah, she cared about the lab.
But she was also under pressure
Oh, absolutely.
to keep things running smoothly.
To meet the demands of law enforcement.
So how did she react to these accusations?
Well, initially she was hesitant.
Right. I mean,
It's understandable.
she had always seen Dukan as this model employee,
Yeah.
someone who went above and beyond.
Exactly.
It's like finding out that your star athlete's been doping.
It's a betrayal.
You question everything.
Totally.
But Piero and his colleague,
They came prepared.
they did their homework.
They had all the evidence.
So what did they have?
The discrepancies in the results.
Okay.
The skipped procedures.
Impossible turnaround times?
Yeah, it was all there.
So faced with all this evidence,
Niff had to take it seriously.
he had no choice.
And that's when everything really started to unravel.
Oh, boy.
News of this investigation spread quickly.
Beyond the lab.
Beyond the lab.
Oh, wow.
The Attorney General's office.
Oh, yeah.
State police.
I can imagine it was pure chaos.
It was.
Prosecutors reassessing cases.
Defense attorneys seeing an opportunity.
And the media, of course,
Of course.
having a field day.
It was a complete meltdown.
Yeah, the very foundation of the criminal justice system
Reliant on forensic evidence.
had been shaken.
It was a huge deal.
And at the center of it all,
Annie Dukan,
the lab's Superwoman.
exposed as a fraud.
So what happened to her?
Was she arrested?
I mean, what happened?
Well, she was placed on administrative leave at first,
Okay.
while they launched a full-scale investigation.
And as they dug deeper,
Yeah.
what did they find?
The scope of the deception was just horrifying.
It wasn't just a few cases.
No, it was potentially tens of thousands
Tens of thousands.
that had been affected by her actions.
Wow, that's mind-boggling.
It really is.
I mean, the impact on the legal
Devastated
system,
people's lives.
it's almost impossible to grasp.
It's huge.
So what was her fate?
What happened to Annie Dukan?
Yeah.
Well, she eventually pleaded guilty,
Okay, guilty to what?
obstruction of justice,
Okay.
tampering with evidence,
Hmm?
and perjury.
Okay, and what was her sentence?
5 years in prison.
5 years.
That's it?
That seems incredibly lenient,
It does seem light.
given everything she did.
Considering the potential damage?
I mean, how could it be just 5 years?
Well, it's hard to prove the direct impact on each case.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
And it's possible she cooperated with authorities
Okay, maybe she gave up some information.
to get a lighter sentence.
That's possible,
It happens.
but it still feels like a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, considering the widespread harm she caused.
Did her case at least lead to some changes in how these labs operate?
It did, actually.
It did. Okay, what kind of changes?
Well, in Massachusetts,
Okay,
they implemented stricter protocols for evidence handling,
makes sense.
increased oversight,
Good.
and new ways to report and investigate misconduct.
Okay, well, that's encouraging at least.
Yeah.
That some positive change came out of this mess.
Yeah, even if it took a massive scandal.
Right, it's a reminder that even the most trusted systems
Yeah.
are vulnerable to human error.
To ambition, pressure, and those temptations to cut corners.
It's a powerful lesson.
It is.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what's the message for our listeners?
What should they take away from all of this?
What have we learned?
I think it comes down to this. We all have a role to play in safeguarding truth and justice.
Yeah.
Whether we're scientists
Lawyers,
or just citizens,
we need to be vigilant.
we have to question assumptions.
Yeah.
Demand accountability from those systems that govern our lives.
And sometimes it takes an individual.
Like Peter Piero,
Yeah.
to stand up and say, hey, something's not right here.
Yeah. He risked his career
He was courageous.
to stand up for the truth.
It's inspiring, right?
It is that one person can make a difference.
Absolutely. We all have a choice
We do.
when we face ethical dilemmas.
Do we take the easy path?
Or do we
Right.
stand up for what's right?
And the Dukan case shows us those consequences,
The impact of those choices.
both for individuals and for society as a whole.
It's a powerful reminder.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a deep dive into the Annie Dukan case.
A fascinating story.
It's a story that reminds us that the pursuit of truth
Mm-hmm.
is a constant battle,
It is.
one that demands vigilance, courage.
And a commitment to those ethical principles.
Yeah, Prudley, thanks for joining us.